What is up, everybody? Louis back here again. Finally, it's time. International Fight Week. You just got a ton of bangers on the card. The main event, of course, featherweight, 145 pounds. Alexander Volkanovski taking on Yair Rodriguez. Rodriguez trying to get a title for Mexico. Volkanovski trying to become the greatest featherweight of all time. Can he do it? I don't know, but it's going to be a crazy fight. Co-main event, 125 pounds men's flyweight. Brandon Moreno looking to make his first title defense, representing Mexico as well. Taking on Alejandro Pantoja. Pantoja with that insane submission over Alex Perez. He's been waiting for his time. You got a number one contenders fight at 185 pounds men's middleweight. Robert Whittaker trying to get a third fight with Izzy, and Dricus du Plessis trying to get his first title shot ever. Middleweight needs new blood, but he's got to get through Robert Whittaker first. You got Jalen Turner trying to rise in the ranks again, taking on Dan Hooker. Dan Hooker, it's kind of do or die for this guy if he wants to be in the top 10. Then you got Bo Nickel making his second appearance, taking on UFC newcomer Val Woodburn. Anything could happen in that one, I guess. We all know what's going to happen, but you never know. And then Robbie Lawler, it's his retirement fight, and just a violent fight against Nico Price. Tatsuro Taira is on the card. He's my favorite flyweight prospect. You just got a ton of crazy fights. A bunch of fights. You got 13 fights. First fight of the night at 155 pounds, men's lightweight. KIRK taking on Esteban Ribovics. KIRK took on Damon Jackson in his last fight. In the first round, he lands some tie knees to the head whenever he gets pressed. But then he kind of circles along the outside. He pumps his jabs, but then he gets rushed. He eats some overhands with an uppercut. But then he gets rocked with a counter cross off of his jabs. But then he gets pulled down from the body lock position. Then in the second round, he gets rushed and he gets taken down with the body lock right in the half guard and just gets submitted with an arm triangle. So you can only do so much. But, you know, he's more of a guy that has energy in the first round. Before that, he took on Makwan and Mercani. In the first round, he looks for some slide-in jabs. He's able to defend his single legs, but then he gets taken out the mat return from the body lock again. But then he lands a right cross and a head kick, standing at range. Then in the second round, he lands some right crosses. He'll land it straight to the body, and then he's able to stuff the double leg, pulls the guillotine, and then goes for a heel hook. But then he gives up full guard. Not a very wise decision. And then he goes for the triangle / armbar attempt on the bottom. And then Esteban Ribovics, he took on Loik Radzhabov his last fight. In the first round, he gets rocked with a right hook into a body and taken down with the body lock trip. But then he eats a right hook off of his uppercut. But he gets taken down with the single. Tries to go for the Kimura, defend it with that. Didn't really work out. But then he's able to circle back on the outside and he lands some jabs. But then he gives up the double leg, gets his back taken. But then in the second round, he hurts him with a 1-2-1 combination in succession. But then he gets taken out with the double off of that. But then he gets pressed with some right crosses and hooks. But then he gets taken out with the double after that. But then he lands a left hook and he rips the body with the right hook. And then lands some more body shots. And then he drops him with an overhand. Really good combination for him. Don't see a ton of guys rip the body like that. Then in the third round, he eats an overhand right whenever he's walking into range. And then he walks right into a counter left hook as well. He's kind of throwing, getting a little wild, trying to get it back. His shots are a little too short. I think it's taken out the double, but he's able to use the Kimura, and he's able to take the back, transition to the mount, but he's not able to hold him down there, and it gets taken out the double again. Then he hurts him with a left hook in the pocket toward the end of the fight. So scrappy finish for him. Esteban Ribovics, minus 145. KIRK, plus 125. Yeah, this is a little bit of a tough one. I've been going back and forth on this. I'm just, you know, KIRK, he's a little wild. And Esteban Ribovics, though, he's fast and he's powerful. I don't really know. He can go 3 rounds. But KIRK, I wouldn't count him out. And he's a slight underdog here. And I think this might be one of those fights you just kind of flip a coin and go with the underdog. KIRK's a little funky. He might be able to make it difficult in the third round. KIRK plus 125. I'm going to go for KIRK. We'll see what happens, man. Second fight of the night at 125 pounds men's flyweight. Shannon Ross taking on Jesus Aguilar. Shannon Ross take on Clayton Rodriguez's last fight. In the first round, he eats a body kick and some hooks against the fence. But then he eats a hook flurry and gets TKO'd from there. So nothing to report. But before that, he took on Vinicius Salvador, Dana White's Contender Series. In the first round, he eats a left cross at range, but then he gets cut off on the cage, and he eats a jump knee, and then he gets dropped with the left hook after that. But then he gets pressed with some jabs, but he was able to land a counter overhand and a right cross off of a load up from Salvador, but then he gets pressed with some right hooks, but then he gets dropped with the hook, gets pressed with it, and then he's able to land a straight right at range after he gets back up. And then in the second round, he starts landing some body and some head kicks, lands some right crosses, standing at range, starts to find his range. But then he gets pressed with some right hooks in the pocket, and he kind of pieces them up with some straight rights against the fence, but then he eats an uppercut and gets KO'd. So, yeah, he was doing good until he wasn't. And then Jesus Aguilar took on Tetsuro TAIRA his last fight. I'm not going to count that one. Then before that, he took on Erickson Fiera de Silva on the Contender Series before that. In the first run, he swings big into the pocket. Then he's able to complete the blast double off the fence. But then he gets pancaked going for an inside trip. He trips him the wrong way. He's a little reckless with it, and it cost him. He gives up his back, but he's able to swim out at the end, lands some nice ground and pound. Then in the second round, he rushes with some hooks, but he gets pancaked again off of another failed trip attempt, so that's something you got to watch out for. But then he's able to run the pipe on the single, takes his back, grabs that cross wrist, lands a little bit of ground and pound there, but he's able to secure the position, which I liked. Then in the third round, he lands some overhands and some hooks into the double leg. He jumps for the guillotine off of a single leg, and he's able to get the submission off of there. So sometimes it works when you pull guillotine. It works for him. He's lucky, I guess. Jesus Aguilar minus 140, Shannon Ross plus 120. I'm going to go with Jesus Aguilar just based on Shannon Ross can't make it very long in a fight. I think Aguilar is the more complete fighter. Shannon Ross might go crazy at the beginning, but I think Aguilar is better in the grappling department, and I think he'll be able to take his back. And Shannon Ross, I think he's going to get tired, and Aguilar's just got to avoid the big shots of Ross. Yeah. So minus 140, Aguilar, not too bad. Third fight of the night at 135 pounds, men's bantamweight. Kind of excited to see this guy again. Cameron Simon, a young up-and-comer, taking on Terrence Mitchell, UFC newcomer for this fight. Simon took on Amanda Martinez his last fight. In the first round, he presses with some leg kicks, and he's able to land a left kick, and then he throws some 1-2s, and he'll back out. He lands some body kicks, but then he eats some hooks when he was walking into him, but then he's able to land a counter overhand, and then he's able to land a counter left hook inside the pocket exchange. And then in the second round, he eats a counter hook in the pocket, and he misses. When he misses his lunge overhands, he overextends himself a little bit, leaves himself open, a little concerning, but then he eats a body shot, but then he's able to counter, and he's able to land a left hook off of there, and then he's able to drop him with the lunge jab, lands some nice ground and pound, stays on him, and really wants to hurt him. And then in the third round, he hurts him with a lunge, some lunge overhand rights at range, and then he's able to catch the kick. He's able to get the single leg, complete that, land some hard ground and pound from full guard, and he's really trying to finish this fight, or at least put a good impression in the judges' minds. That's what you want to see, a guy fighting for your money. And then Terrence Mitchell, there's not a whole lot about him. He has a lot of first round fight, a lot of his fights end in the first round, but he took on Justin Cook in AFC. So in the first round, he throws a head kick and a 1-2, and he hits a lat drop, and he's able to defend a heel hook from there, and he's able to take his back out of his scramble, gets a rear naked choke submission. And I really couldn't find too much tape on him besides that, so that's all I got. We don't know much about him. Terrence Mitchell plus 430, Cameron Simon minus 600. This is one of the situations where the newcomer might come in, but, Terrence Mitchell, I just did not like what I saw out of him on the tape, to be honest. He might do it. Minus 600 is a little pricey, but it's off a guy who's taking a fight on a week's notice, so I can kind of understand it. He hasn't fought in the UFC before, didn't get called up to the UFC. Minus 600 is a little ridiculous, but you wouldn't go knockout minus 165. But I'm going to go with Cameron Simon. I think he's the better fighter. The price is a little wild. He might get into some trouble early on, but I think he's the better 3-round fighter. I'm going to go with Cameron Simon. Let's just hope he doesn't lose any points. Fourth fight of the night, 205 pounds, men's light heavyweight. Vitor Petrino taking on Marcin Prachnio. Petrino took on Anton Turkalj, his last fight, a.k.a. the Pleasure Man. In the first round, he gets a body lock lift off of a hook swarm. He gets in a half guard, keeps you, and then he'll keep the over-under on the fence when Anton got back up, and then he lands a counter overhand 1-2 inside the clinch position, but then he eats a cross, but then he's able to land a counter uppercut and a flurry inside the pocket. Very strong end of the first round. Then in the second round, he lands some hooks in the pocket while they're in a firefight. He lands some straight rights at range. Then he gets the body lock trip into a takedown, but then he gives up the mat return. He's able to let him back up, and then he gets taken out the mat return. with a body lock counter. Gives up his back, but then he's able to explode into him, regain top position. He lands a jab and a cross, but then he gets rocked with a counter cross and some hooks. Then in the third round, he lands a jab, but then he gets countered with some overhands, and then he gets taken out the mat return, but he's able to explode back into him again. Gets his rear naked choke, no hooks, but then he gets reversed from there, just a slop fest, scramble slop fest. But then he gets body locked, but then he's able to hit a blast double off of there, stuff it, and completes a blast double, stays on top. And, pretty strong finish. It was kind of going back and forth there, but he was able to come out on top, and I thought he had the harder shots. PRACHNIO took on William Knight his last fight. William Knight literally did nothing. Before that, he took on Felipe Lins. In the first round, he lands some step-in leg kicks and body kicks, but then he gets taken on the double, but he's able to pop right back up. He gets pressed with some leg kicks and jabs. He's able to stuff the double leg attempt. Then the second round, he gets pressured with the hook flurry, but he's able to get the clinch from there. Stops any damage, but then he eats a 1-2 whenever he swings wild. He gets pressed with some straights, then he gets clinched up again. But then in the third round, he gets taken down with the body lock after he initiates the clinch. Then he lands a left hook and a push kick. Then he gets taken down with the double, eats some ground and pound toward the end of the fight. Not a great finish. PRACHNIO plus 195. PETRINO minus 230. I don't really like the line here, but, PRACHNIO just doesn't really impress me. He doesn't do enough. PETRINO, you think he hits hard early on. You think he's just going to completely gas out, and he kind of does, but he was able to carry that power throughout the third round. He's able to defend some takedown attempts. He's able to reverse positions. He's got better grappling than you'd think, and PRACHNIO just doesn't offer a whole lot. And he lands some jabs here or there, but he kind of rushes into the clinch sometimes, and I think PETRINO is going to be able to either win that position or just hurt him on the feet. So I'm going to go with Fyodor PETRINO here. It's a little steep of a price tag, but I think he might get it done early. So sixth fight of the night at 125 pounds. Sorry, fifth fight of the night, 125 pounds. Men's flyweight, Tatsuro Taira taking on Edgar CHAIREZ. Should be a fun one. CHAIREZ making his debut. Taira, he's the next up-and-comer at 125. He took on Jesus Aguilar his last fight. First round, he gets pulled into a guillotine, but he's able to defend, get the half guard to mount. He pulls triangle, transitions to an armbar, gets a submission. Very slick stuff. Before that, he took on CJ Vergara. In the first round, he gets pressed with some jabs, but he's able to land a counter left hook, gets a double into the mat return in north-south position, kind of looking for some Kimuras, but just kind of biding his time. He went back on the feet. He lands a 1-2, gets a double immediately, but then he gets caught in a head and arm sweep, and he has to defend the head and arm at the end of that first round. And, it wasn't like super tight, but it was kind of close. So he kind of had to see what he was made out of, and, he's able to defend for the last 30 seconds. Then the second round, he's able to duck under the hook. He gets a single to the back, gets a rear naked choke position, gets the body triangle, switches to an armbar toward the end, and gets a submission from the armbar. Beautiful stuff. Besides getting caught in that arm triangle, pretty solid, pretty smooth performance. But, it shows that when he's the nail, he can fight. So I like seeing that. Edgar CHAIREZ took on Danny Vasquez in Fury FC. His last fight, in the first round, he lands some jabs and some lead hooks and some leg kicks. And, that was pretty much it. And then before that, he took on Clayton Carpenter in Dana White's Contender Series. I thought this would be some better data to pull from. In the first round, he lands some jabs and some front kicks. He eats a flurry going into the jab, though. But then he drops him with a check left hook. Then he gets clinched, and he gets pulled off of the fence, but he's able to stuff takedown attempt and kind of step over him, get the top position. And then he lands a couple left hooks at range. Then in the second round, he lands some front kicks at range and some jabs. But then he gets taken out the double off of there. You can tell his gas tank starts dwindling here. Then in the third round, he eats some leg kicks whenever he's pressing forward for some jabs. But then he's able to land a jab, but then he eats a left hook and then a head kick. He gets taken out with the double leg again. But then he's able to pop right back up, so he's still got some fight in him. But then he gets taken out with the high single off of like a jump knee he throws. So just not the best IQ at the end of the fight. But Edgar CHAIREZ plus 700, Tatsuro Taira minus 1050. But, dude, I think Tatsuro Taira is the real deal. Price tag is insane. But, Vasquez just kind of fall off after the first round. But Taira, he comes with different attacks. And, he'll put it on hard in the first round. And if he can get it to the mat, he's going to get it to the mat. And if he gets it on the ground, I think he's going to be able to lock up a submission or something like that. I'm going to go the whole fight under 1.5, minus 140. Submission for TAIRA, minus 225. A little steep. I think he's more likely to get a submission. But if you want to take a shot at Tatsuro TAIRA knockout, plus 500, not a bad bet. But you got 3 options there to actually make some money off of him. But I'm going to go with Tatsuro on this one. 6th fight of the night at 205 pounds, men's light heavyweight yet again. It's a rematch. Alonzo MENIFIELD taking on Jimmy CRUTE. And yeah, I'm just going to go through the last fight real quick. In the first round, Alonzo lands some overhands, but then Jimmy's able to hit the blast double, takes the back, takes half guard. But then Alonzo is able to keep that butterfly guard. He doesn't accept bottom position. He's able to stand up. He defends the double leg against the fence, and he pops out of the guillotine. And he's able to get back to his feet. Jimmy CRUTE pulls guillotine. Don't know why you do that. Bad ring IQ moment from him. Then Alonzo hurts him with some counter left hooks, and then Jimmy kind of falls down like off of a kick or something, and then Alonzo lands some nasty ground and pound around the back, and then he drops him again with an overhand right on the fence, and Jimmy CRUTE's trying to find a single leg to save his life. Then in the second round, Alonzo drops him with a jab, step-in jab, nasty. He presses with some 1-2s to the fence, and then they get into a pummel battle. Then Alonzo gets taken down with a single, and he gives up his back toward the end of the round. And then in the third round, Jimmy gets pressured. Alonzo pressures Jimmy. He throws some jabs. Jimmy throws some jabs back, and then he's able to get the double leg on the fence, and he's able to finish with the single. Jimmy takes half guard. He goes for the Kimura, and then he's able to take the back for the rest of the round. Doesn't do a ton with it, but Alonzo's just exhausted. And then Alonzo loses the point to a cage grab. That's what cost him the whole fight. Alonzo's up 2 rounds to 0, in my opinion. Then he loses the third round plus the cage grab, so that's a draw. So that's a tough one. Alonzo MENIFIELD plus 120, Jimmy CRUTE minus 140. I was on Alonzo MENIFIELD last fight, and I'm not to say Jimmy CRUTE can't get better, but I think Alonzo, if he doesn't grab the cage, I think he's okay. He didn't need to grab the cage anyway because he could have lost. It wouldn't matter if he got taken down. He was able to lose the third round, still win the fight. I just think Alonzo, I think his striking is getting a lot better. I think if he can just shore up his takedown defense, maybe manage his gas tank a little better throughout the fight, I think he can get it done. Plus, he's a slight underdog. I'm going to go for Alonzo MENIFIELD on this one. Feature fight of the prelims, 115 pounds, women's strawweight. Should be a fun, violent one. Yasmin Uruguay taking on Denise Gomez. Yasmin took on Estela Nunes her last fight. In the first round, she gets dropped right off the bat with a right cross off of a step-in leg kick, but then she's able to get right back in on the clinch, doesn't sit down. She's able to land a counter left hook off of her overhand. She lands some double jabs and a straight right. Second round, she drops her with the left hook and then an overhand right combination. Then she kind of swarms her, and then back on the feet again, she drops her with the 1-2, lands some nasty hammer fists on the ground, postures up, just goes wild with the ground and pound, gets TKO. Very workmanlike performance, gets it done, very technical. Denise Gomez, she took on Bruna Brazil her last fight. In the first round, she lands a step-in overhand, drops her with a step-in overhand, and then she drops her with the leg kick, and then she's able to get the underhook against the fence, but then she gets reversed with the body lock, but then she's able to keep that overhook and battle in the clinch. Then she rushes with some right crosses, and then she gets a body lock, pulls the back trip off the fence. Not the best takedown in the world, but it works for her. Then the second round, she lands some overhands to the clinch, and then she's able to get the back trip again. She eats some counter hooks off of her jabs, though, but then she lands a left to the body and a right to the head. Dropped her with that combination, and then lands some nasty ground and pound. TKO finish. Both these ladies are violent. Both these ladies are finishers. Should be a fun one. Denise Gomez, plus 300. Yasmin Uruguay, minus 400. I'm just going to go with the underdog, man. I think they both have similar games. I think Yasmin might be a little more precise in the striking. But, I think if they get into the clinches, I don't know. I think it's kind of... I think it's 50. Actually, I think the whole fight's 50-50, if I'm going to be honest. I think they both got power. Yasmin might be a little more precise, like I said, but if they get into the clinch, who knows what's going to happen. I think it kind of neutralizes it out. But Denise Gomez should not be plus 300. I mean, they both got power. They both finish. I'm going to go with the underdog. Flip a coin here. Denise Gomez. That's that. Okay. Main event of the prelims at 170 pounds, men's welterweight. Ruthless Robbie Lawler in his retirement fight taking on Niko Price. Should be a fun one, should be violent. You know, couldn't ask for a better person than Niko Price for Robbie's retirement fight. So let's just have fun with this one. Robbie took on Bryan Barberena his last fight. In the first round, he kind of bounces at range, bounces forward, and then he rips to the body, counter hook off of Barberena's overhand, and then he lands some left crosses at range, but then he eats some jabs coming in, but then he lands some uppercut. He's kind of slightly standing at range in the pocket, and then he eats some body shots. Remember, he's just kind of sitting in the pocket there. Remember, he's not moving, not on his bicycle. But then he lands a left hook to the body and then a right to the head. And then he lands a nasty uppercut to end the first round. Then the second round, he lands a lead right hook and then some counter jabs in the pocket. And he rocks him with that. He's able to slip the straight shots. And then he'll return his straight shots. Then he's able to roll with the straight shots. And he's able to land a counter uppercut. But then he gets rocked with a step-in elbow and a cross. And then whenever Barberena starts to swarm him, pretty much the whole fight, he has a good guard, is being defensively responsible. He puts his guard down, and then he just has his hands down here and just starts letting loose. That's when he starts to get in trouble. And they're just kind of going back and forth, and then he eats a flurry on the fence and just gets TKO'd. And like it just seemed like all of his movement just shut off like after the first round in one instance. So yeah, that's probably just the age and probably the damage and the wear and tear, unfortunately. He looked really good in the first round, but after that, you know, just kind of wore off. But then Niko Price took on Philip Rowe his last fight. In the first round, he pressures forward, he cuts him off with some leg kicks and then some looping hooks. But he then eats a jab and a 1-2 at range, and then he gets rocked with the right hook off of his looping left, though. But then in the second round, he lands a jab and an inside leg kick, and then he clinches him to the fence. Then he lands some nasty knees to the body, but then he walks right into the double leg takedown. But I don't think Robbie's going to shoot. But then he lands a right to the body and then to the head. Then he eats a jab and an overhand right at range, and then a knee whenever he's rushing forward a little bit. But then he's able to roll out of the guillotine attempt, stay in the guillotine. But then he gives up his back from that position, gives up his back for the rest of the round. And then in the third round, he lands some leg kicks and a left hook, and then an overhand left. And then his hook is a little too short, though, when he follows it. But then he rocks him with the counter overhand off of his jab. And then he lands just a looping shot flurry against the fence. And then he gets him in half guard. And he lands some like elbows, but it's kind of clear he's not going to finish him. They don't have enough power. There's not enough power on the shots. He just kind of completely gasses himself out. And then they get back on the feet. He throws some looping overhands with like very little power, but then he eats a counter hook and then some right crosses and then a flurry and just gets TKO'd, mostly from exhaustion, if we're being honest. You know, he was losing that fight, and he gave it everything he had, and he couldn't finish him, and he gassed out. What are you gonna do? But Niko Price minus 225, Robbie Lawler plus 190. This is a tough one. I like the price on Robbie Lawler, but I just can't bet on him anymore, even though the price on Niko's a little wide. You know, Niko Price, he can go all 3 rounds. He might be a little reckless, might get hit sometimes. I think he's probably going to lose the first round, to be honest, but Robbie's just, after seeing that happen to Barberena, I think this fight's going to go the same way. He's going to have a good first round, then second and third round, he's just going to start getting backed up and start eating some big shots, and Niko Price has power. So, unfortunately, I'm going to have to go with Niko Price, but I think it's a fun fight, and, you know, maybe Robbie can prove me wrong and win his retirement fight. But I'm going to go with Niko on this one. Okay. First fight on the main card at 185 pounds, men's middleweight. Bo Nickal taking on UFC newcomer Val Woodburn. They had to get him on like a few days' notice, so this fight should be interesting. Big risk for Bo Nickal, for being honest. Bo Nickal took on Jamie Pickett in his UFC debut. In the first round, he gets a double, shoots a double, goes for a knee pick attempt, and then he's able to get the right underhook, and then he gets a hip toss off of the fence, and then he goes in the front headlock, snap down situation, and then he's able to hook his ankle with his foot, get behind him, gets both hooks in. He looks like he's a little high at first, but he's able to adjust himself and get back. Then he gets in the arm triangle position from half guard and just squeezes that thing, readjusts, takes his time, and gets the arm triangle submission from the half guard. So you know how strong he is. Okay? And then Val Woodburn, he took on Wesley Martins out of Combat Night. Another promotion. In the first round, he rushes with some hooks into the clinch battle, and he's able to land, but he's able to get the left underhook against the fence. Then he rips some right hooks, and he's able to catch the kick. He rips the body, then he gets into the tie clinch, but then he eats some body shots in the tie clinch. But then in the second round, he's able to catch the kick, land a straight right, and then he gets that left underhook again. He likes to be on, both of these guys like being on the fence in this fight for some reason. Gets that tie clinch again, knees to the body and the head, and he's able to stuff the double leg. It gets a nice pancake. He's able to end up on top. And then back on the feet, he hurts him with some hooks in the clinch. And then in the third round, he lands some hooks, rushes hooks into the clinch, and then he battles in the clinch position, pummels, keeps that overhook though, decent position, and then they get into a pocket exchange, and he pushes him down. He just kind of falls down, I guess, and then he takes his back. Rear naked choke attempt to end the fight. Can't get it, but dominant position for the end of the fight. So I like seeing that. But, you know, Val Woodburn, he just didn't really let his power go in this fight. So, I don't know. But I think he's capable of knocking people out. With Val Woodburn, plus 1,200. Bo Nickel, minus 2,400. I'm going with Bo Nickel. Put your money on Val Woodburn, though. Why not? Put $5 on him, okay? Because he might knock Bo Nickel out. Probably not, but I'm just saying we haven't seen Bo Nickel take a punch to the face yet. I'm just saying. But the whole fight to go over 1.5 rounds, plus 320, I think that's your best bet because you don't know if Bo Nickel is going to get TKO or submission. It's probably going to be submission, and that price is really high anyway. But if the whole fight can just go over 1.5 rounds, I think that's doable. You got a last-minute replacement. Bo Nickel is not stupid. Smart, technical guy. Maybe he takes his time. And, you know, maybe Val can just kind of tough it out. Maybe Val throws some big shots and Bo Nickel doesn't want to rush in on him. Who knows? The whole fight to go over 1.5, plus 320, not bad, but I'm going to go with Bo Nickel on this one. Second fight on the main card, 155 pounds, men's lightweight. Jalen the Tarantula Turner, number 11, taking on Dan the Hangman Hooker at number 12. Pivotal matchup for either guy. Dan Hooker's trying to get back to that elite side of the division up in the top 10. Jalen Turner's trying to break through. Had a fight against Gamrot at short notice, couldn't get it done, but proved a lot of people wrong. Let's take a look at that fight. Turner took on Gamrot his last fight in the first round. He eats overhand into the double, but then he gets his back to the fence, and he gets up and he's able to switch his hip. He's able to break free, and he fires a knee to the head right down the middle, lands a couple straights, and then he lands a right cross, but then he gets taken out the low single, but he's able to sprawl on top of him, but then he gives up half guard. Kind of looks like he's trying to take his back a little bit, but then he's kind of bails out. But then he's able to use the overhook and he's able to stand up with it. So very good resilience from him. And I do think Dan Hooker's probably going to shoot takedowns in this fight. In the second round, he throws a knee up the middle, lands some leg kicks, and he looks for some lunge overhands. But then he rocks him with the right cross off of Gamrot's level change. He's able to stuff the takedown attempt, and he lands a front kick, but then he eats a counter right. But he's able to land a jab and a right cross. But then he gets taken down with a alpha naked front kick. It's either a leg kick or going to the body. Just kind of stepped in and kicked, and he was doing so well before that. That was just a huge lapse in IQ, in my opinion. And then he gets put in a crucifix and loses the rest of that round, and it was a close round. I think he could have edged it out. Tough one for him, man. But then in the third round, he lands a jab and a cross, but then he gets taken out the double again. But then he's able to work his way back up, lands a 1-2 at range. He's able to stuff the single leg attempt. But then he throws a jump knee whenever Gamrot already has his leg, and then he gets taken out the double off the fence. So just a couple lapses in IQ, but his takedown defense is not bad. Not as bad as people were saying it could have been. And then Dan Hooker took on Claudio Puelles his last fight. In the first round, he's able to defend the heel hook off an Imanari roll, kind of scrambles. Then back on the feet at the end of the round, he lands a slide in right cross, starts to find his range. Then the second round, he jabs to the body, then to the head. Then he lands a right cross, followed up with a head kick. He lands a right to the body, and then a left cross to the head. But then he eats a lead left hook in return whenever he's kind of circling and squaring up. But then he lands 3 teep kicks to the body, and Puelles doesn't get up when the ref tells him to. Gets a TKO. So, yeah. Kind of hard to find, data on an opponent that Dan's fought that's kind of like Jalen. Because before that, it was Arnold Allen at 145. Then it was freaking Islam, So, I don't think Jalen's going to be diving for heel hooks. But Dan Hooker plus 240. Jalen Turner minus 285. Yeah, this price tag's a little out of whack. But I just think Jalen Turner is more powerful, more athletic. I think Dan is probably going to be a little more accurate, but I think Jalen Turner is just going to be able to overwhelm him. This price tag's a little out of whack. But Dan Hooker, I just don't see how he hangs in there. I think he's going to get hit hard a bunch. And Dan's probably going to try to take him down, but Jalen Turner has pretty solid takedown defense. I don't think he's going to be able to get him down on the ground. And, yeah, I think Dan's going to have to put, like, a 3-round performance together. I think Jalen Turner just going to have to hit him with a couple big shots, honestly. So, I'm going to go with Jalen Turner on this one. The price tag's a little out of whack, but, you know, I think he gets it done. Featured fight of the night at 185 pounds, men's middleweight, Robert the Reaper Whittaker, number 2, taking on Dricus du Plessis, number 5. The winner of this is getting a title shot. Should be very interesting. Both guys have a lot to fight for. There's a lot on the line. And Robert Whittaker, let's see if he can keep his rank as the number 2 best 185er. Robert Whittaker took on Marvin Vettoria's last fight. This was in September, so a little while ago. Had trouble finding a fight. In the first round, he loads up with the right cross. Whenever he gets rushed, he lands some step-in jabs. Then he jabs. He circles along the outside, but then he's able to slip the hooks, and then he kind of circles out of range, scores back up. Then he can lunge forwards with some jabs, but then he gets clipped with a kick or a knee, but pretty good high guard. Then in the second round, he lands a head kick and then a lunge right too. Then he lands a head kick, step in right hook, and kind of stays out range, just kind of picks his shots there. Really starts touching him up. Then the third round, he lands some more oblique kicks, and then he rocks him with a head kick off of Marvin's load up of a hook. Marvin's getting a little frustrated at this point. But then he's able to slide out of range, and he lands a slide in, straight right, and then he lands a jab, gets the blast double at the end. And, yeah, just makes the takedown in there, keeps him guessing. And, yeah, really hurt him with that head kick in the second round. So, and Marvin Vettoria has a chin of bricks. So you can't knock that guy out. Pretty flawless performance, to be honest. Then in Dricus du Plessis, he took on Derek Brunson in his last fight. In the first round, his kick gets caught, and he gets pancaked in a half guard. But he's able to shrimp, and he's able to get up. He gets put in a guillotine. Bad decision from Brunson. Then he's able to pop out of it, gets full guard, tries to go for the heel hook, but he gives up his back. But then he gets rushed with some hooks and some straights by Brunson. So not great first round for him, but he landed a couple shots toward the end. But then in the third round, he gets blitzed with some straight shots, but then he looks for the check hook. And he's backing straight up, though, with his chin in the air, but he's trying to catch him coming in. Then he lands a body kick and a jab to a left hook. But then he lands some leg kicks, and he backs up, and he lands a jab and a left hook, and then lunging overhands. And he's just kind of touching him up at this point, and Brunson's, like, very exhausted. But then he blitzes him, but then he eats a counter hook, but then he's able to drop him with some left hooks, and then a straight right, gets on top of him. There's like 10 seconds left, lands some nasty ground and pound from full guard, hits him with a couple of big shots at the end, and Derek Brunson's corner throws in the towel. So, I don't know how much you want to say it's exhaustion or Dricus du Plessis is beating him, but yeah, probably both. But Dricus du Plessis plus 280, Robert Whittaker minus 360. Yeah, I don't know why, but I think du Plessis can beat him. I think this price tag is a little disrespectful. I think Whittaker is obviously the more technical fighter, but, you know, I don't think Whittaker is going to knock him out. And du Plessis has those blitzes in him. And people want to laugh, but, I mean, if he can breathe out of his nose, that's only going to help him, you know? So, I don't know. And also, for looking at narrative, I know it's not good to look at narratives, but, I mean, if Robert Whittaker wins, it's just going to be boring. He's going to fight Izzy 3 times. But if Dricus du Plessis wins, they have that whole feud to go off of. And that just makes sense to me. And I think du Plessis can get it done. Du Plessis can land a couple big blitzes, maybe hurt him. We've seen Rob get hurt before. Du Plessis, Whittaker might take him down. I think du Plessis' takedown defense is good enough to not get taken down by Robert. Plus 280, I'm going to go with Dricus du Plessis on this one. I don't know if it's going to be a knockout or what, but I think he can get it done some way, somehow. We'll see. Co-main event of the evening at 125 pounds, men's flyweight for the title. Brandon Moreno taking on Alejandro the Cannibal Pantoja. Should be a fun one. Brandon Moreno is making his first title defense, and Pantoja beat him 2 times already. So, you know, he thinks that belt's already his. Moreno took on Davison Figueiredo for the 4th time in his last fight. In the first round, he gets a blast double. He's able to defend the guillotine attempt. He lands some overhand rights, and then a left uppercut, and then a straight left. And he lands a left to the body, and then an uppercut, and then an overhand right, and then he shoots a double, and he's able to defend the heel hook. And this is what he did this fight. He added in those blast doubles, and I think that's just such a good touch, and just kind of, he's not like a huge threat on the ground, but it just stops the momentum and keeps people guessing. And then in the second round, he gets taken down off of a body kick, but he gets right back up on the single. Then he's able to land a left hook on the break. He lands a jab and then a straight right, but then he eats an uppercut counter from Figgy, but then he gets pancaked off of a single. but then he's able to hit a foot sweep. Like, he's on his back, pulls his foot, stands back up, and then he shoots a double. So he's just really funky, I guess, too now. Then in the third round, he lands a lead left hook off of Figgy's kick, but then he kind of falls down. Oh, sorry. And then Figgy falls down. He lands some ground and pound in a full guard. And then he gets the TKO via the eye swelling injury. Because in the third round, he lands a lead left hook, and Figgy thought it was an eye poke, and it wasn't. It was a giant hook, perfectly placed right underneath the eyeball, and punches count. And the eye was so swollen that they couldn't continue the fight. So he got it done, man. And say what you want, but he's a finisher. Okay. And Alejandro Pantoja took on Alex Perez's last fight. This was not a long fight. In the first round, he rushes with some uppercuts and some hooks. He just has no care in the world. Hits a pass by, duck under, whatever you want to call it. And then he takes his back, jumps right into the backpack, gets a rear naked choke submission within like a minute and a half. So that dude is hungry. Before that, he took on Brandon Royval. In the first round, he lands some straight rights, gets the body lock lift takedown, takes the back, gets one hook in. He's able to defend this weird, funky calf slicer position Royval has him in because it's Brandon Royval, but he's okay, didn't panic. But then he gets back on the feet. He eats some jabs at range, but he's able to land a counter straight right, and then he lands a counter cross off of Brandon's jab. Then in the second round, he rushes forward with some 1-2s. Walks through the jabs of Royval. His single attempt gets stuffed, though, and he eats a couple jabs for his troubles. But then he's able to slip the jab, and he takes his back, pulls him to the mat, gets that body triangle, locks up that rear naked choke submission, and that's that, man. It was tough, dude, because Royval is usually scrambling, hitting Granbies, and he locked him down at that body triangle and got the rear naked choke submission. I couldn't believe it. It seemed like there's still more fight to be had, but Pantoja is sticky. Pantoja is plus 175. Brandon Moreno is minus 205. I'll be honest, I don't really know. But I know that Brandon Moreno is champion. I know that he's adding wrinkles to his game. I know that Pantoja is very good on the ground. You do not want that guy to get your back. But I think Brandon Moreno's got solid takedown defense. And, you know, Brandon Moreno makes guys pay. If Pantoja shoots in on him and doesn't get the takedown, Moreno's going to make him pay. And then don't forget about that nasty body kick he landed against KIRK of France. And it's a tough one, but, you know, Moreno's the champion. I think there's something to be said for that. And Pantoja, I don't think he can keep that pace for 5 rounds. Brandon Moreno has fought multiple 5-round fights. He's been in multiple championship fights. He has experience. Pantoja hasn't been in a 5-round fight in the UFC. So I'm just going to go with Brandon Moreno. I think he's better on the feet. As long as he can keep him off of him, Pantoja might have a good couple of first rounds. But as long as Moreno can defend the submission attempts, rounds 3, 4, and 5, I think Moreno turns it around. I'm going to go with Brandon Moreno. On to the main event of the evening at 145 pounds, men's featherweight, arguably the most anticipated fight of the summer for the strap. Alexander the Great Volkanovski taking on Yair El Pantera Rodriguez. Rodriguez, the interim champion, Volkanovski, the full champion. This one's going to be crazy. This one is going to be violent, and I cannot wait for it. Alexander Volkanovski took on Islam Makhachev's last fight up at 155. So we're going to look at his last fight at 145, which was Max Holloway, number 3. In the first round, he lands some slide-in straight rights. He's able to block the head kicks. He lands a 1-2, then goes to the collar tie, steps back, lands some hooks, and then he hurts him with the switch stance jab, really stiff. And then the second round, he jabs when he's backing up. He lands a step-in right hook. Then he gets a body lock to the fence to kind of break the rhythm up. He lands some elbows and some hooks from there. Then he lands a jab and a straight to the body. But then he gets clipped with the left hook in the pocket. But then he kind of swings out of the pocket, and he's returning fire. Then in the third round, keeping his defense mindful, though. And then in the third round, he circles off the fence, keeps the high guard. He lands a step-in overhand, followed by an uppercut. And then he lands a left and some right crosses, and he's able to slip the jabs the whole way. Then in the fourth round, he eats some body kicks at range, though. But then he blocks the 1-2, and then a head kind of blocks most of it. Like, he is a high guard, and it kind of touches him, but he's able to block the majority of that head kick. Then he's able to land a right cross whenever he gets pressed by Max. And then he just kind of peppers some jabs at range. Max is kind of hanging out at range. Then in the fifth round, he circles along the outside, peppers his jabs, and then he lands a jab and a right cross and a straight flurry. And just kind of keeps sticking and moving the whole fight. And he's able to get inside the range of Max Holloway. And yeah, Max Holloway didn't land too much on him. And it was a very shocking performance in a good way. And then Yair Rodriguez, he took on Josh Emmett for the interim title. In the first round, he lands a body kick at range and a straight right whenever he gets pressed. And he kind of circles on the outside. Then he kind of stands and trades with him, but then he gets clipped with a couple hooks from Emmett. So, yeah, Yair's a little wild. But then he sidesteps and he kind of squares up and he throws wild hooks, and he gets rocked with the right hook, and then he kind of gets pushed down to the ground. He eats some nasty ground and pound. Emmett has his back for a little bit, lands some nasty punches on the ground. But then he has that triangle throw on the ground. He lands a couple elbows on the ground, and, you know, he's not going to accept the position, so he's got a lot of fight in him. Then in the second round, he eats a straight right, and then he clips him with the right hook, and he's able to land a couple body kicks, and he's able to defend single leg attempts and just blast elbows whenever he's on the single against the fence. But then he rocks him with the step-in elbow, and then he throws that jump knee, and it lands pretty bad. But then he gets taken down off of there. Then he's able to land some elbows on the ground. He's staying busy, and then he's just being patient, setting up that triangle, and then Emmett tries to stack him, and then Yair just slaps on that triangle, hooks the foot, pulls the head, and it's just so tight. And Emmett has a tap. And, you know, he was very patient with it, and didn't take a ton of damage on the ground. Yair Rodriguez is plus 290, and Alexander Volkanovski is minus 380. And I have no idea what's going to happen in this fight. I think Yair, you know, if he's going to beat him, I think he probably has to finish him. Maybe not, because he almost beat Max Holloway. The Max Holloway fight was a decision. He won 5 rounds. Yair can go 5 rounds if he has to. And, you know, if Volkanovski wins, I think that's probably going to be a 5-round decision. But we'll see, man. We'll see. Yeah, you're just going to be hitting him from all different types of angles. I wonder if Volkanovski's going to have a heavy takedown game. I don't think he has to take him down, but I think he might want to mix those in. But he might have seen the triangle on Emmett, so he might be wary of that. But it depends how clean Alexander can keep it. I think if Alex stays on his jabs and stays with the straight shots, I think he can hurt Yair. But, you know, Yair might be able to throw something crazy, might be able to throw some kind of crazy kick and hurt him or something, or catch him in some type of submission like Ortega did. Who knows? It's just a very difficult fight to predict. And for that reason, I'm going to go with Yair Rodriguez plus 290. You know, why not? I don't like that Volkanovski was up at 155 and he's coming down. And then just looking a little past it, you know, he keeps talking about he wants to go up to 155 and fight Islam again, and he's talking about defending against other people, like what he's gonna do when he beats Yair. And I know he didn't come out and actually say that. He said he's taking Yair very seriously, and I get that, but still, it's kind of the thing like Usman was doing. He started talking about legacy. I don't know, maybe I'm reading too much into it, but it is a world title fight, and crazy things do happen in world title fights. So I think for this price tag, Yair, you know, I think he can catch him with a big shot. That's basically what's going to happen if we're getting simplistic about it. Yair's going to have to hit him with a couple big shots and hurt him. I don't really see him winning a decision. I don't. Unless he, like, hurts him really bad every round and gets on top of him or something. But, yeah. But, you know, if Alexander stays disciplined and fights him how he did Holloway, then, you know, I think he can beat him every 5 rounds, but who knows. But I'm going to take a shot on the underdog, Yair Rodriguez. Regardless, it's going to be a great fight, and it's going to be violent, and I can't wait. All right, everybody, thanks for riding with me. I appreciate it. Like, share, subscribe, Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat, all that stuff. Leave me a comment down below. Let me know if I can do anything better. If you have any advice for me, I'd be willing to take it. Let's see some upsets. Let's see some violence, and let's see some profits. Good luck, everyone.